but it all starts really with an understanding of identity. Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, like shepherds don't make sheep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some may have tried, but sheep make sheep.
Sheep make sheep,
right?
Yeah.
Sheep make sheep, and we've got to form the sheep. It's the whole thing of the predominance of the image of pastor. So we know in the teachings of Jesus, he used the image of shepherd, of sheep, harvest, and fish, catching fish, bringing in the harvest. My role is I'm not the farmer. I wasn't appointed by the bishop as farmer of my parish.
Mm-hmm.
I was appointed the pastor. I wasn't appointed fisherman of my parish.
Mm-hmm.
And so of these three images, that I think you'd be hard pressed to say what was the one that Jesus used the most. He seemed to use all of them fairly often. What's dominated is the pastoring role, which is really about caring for the sheep. And of course, we're divinely mandated to care for the sheep. But this is what my first book I referred to as maintenance. So people sometimes think when I say from maintenance to mission, I mean, oh, you're talking about moving from spending all your time doing administration and maintaining buildings. No, it's not that's a part of maintenance, but maintenance means maintaining the flock. It says in First Peter, maintain the flock that God has appointed to you. So it's a divine mandate where it's not that maintenance is bad and mission is good. No, like maintenance is good. Mm-hmm. Like if you're maintaining your flock, good on you.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. If all you're doing is maintaining the flock, guess what's probably happening? Every year, your flock gets a year older and they get fewer. Mm-hmm. Because the baby sheep, most of them have all left. And so maintaining the flock is not enough. We've got to go on mission. But here's the thing. If your primary identity is to maintain the flock, which comes from the role of being a pastor, even though the good shepherd does leave the 99 in search of the missing one. But if your primary identity as a leader or as a parish is that we've got to care for the people we have, you'll never have enough time to intentionally mobilize for mission. You'll never get there. You'll never do it because there's never enough time. There's never an end to the needs of the sheep. But I think conversely, if you strive to make mission to the least and the lost to be primary, and the church documents all speak about that. The latest Vatican document on parish renewal talked about evangelization, quoting John Paul II from 1981, an address to the Congregation of Clergy, where he spoke about evangelization as primary, preferential, and there's another P word. I always forget what it was, but it was another P word. But that means evangelization is the main thing. That if we make mission primary, most parishes that do that also do an even better job of maintaining the flock. Why? Because instead of it being Father's job to care for everyone, in making missionary disciples, some of those missionary disciples realize that they have pastoring gifts that they have through their baptism. It's not taking over the role of the priest. Who says that the only person who can care for people in the Christian community is the priest? This is part of our problem. It's ridiculous. So part of leadership is to unleash the giftedness of the flock, and the charism of pastoring. The pastoring charism is among the baptized. And so missionary parishes can actually become more caring than parishes that are kind of traditionally modeled. But I think part of the call for one of the things we do when we work with priests in Divine Renovation Ministry, and right now we've got about 1,800 priests around the world in 75 countries that we're working with. And one of the first things we do with priests in our leadership teams is ask them to look at their model of priestly ministry and how they spend their time. And if you think of the munera of the priest, so prophet, priest, king, generally prophetic ministries are on preaching the word, especially liturgically. It's something only the priest can do. The priestly ministry is celebration of the sacraments, especially the Eucharist, and the kingly. In our tradition, we often spoke about this as governance. But I would like to really see that understood in terms of leadership, in terms of leading the flock. If you look, these are the main tasks of the priest, and then there's everything else. And we ask priests to map out. And most priests who haven't been intentional about shaping their priestly ministry spend about 65% of their time doing stuff that's not essential to priesthood. And what we do is we work with priests to say, how can we get that 65 down to 20% so that you're putting your best time and energy into the things that only you can do. And that usually means increasing the time put into preaching and vastly increasing the time that you put into leadership. But we generally haven't valued leadership, and priests weren't trained for leadership. But without investing in leadership, you're not going to see the mobilization of the baptized within your parish.
So another comment and then a question. So my comment is, I've been working with parishes as well. And one of the things I tell people up front is your initial input of what you're going to have to do to start to shape culture is going to be an investment of more time into things. And you're going to be pushing a lot of work. It's going to be difficult. But ultimately, the payoff is down the line in years when you have these people who are enabled, working out of their charisms, missionary disciples who are out there doing things that you shouldn't be doing and taking on the burden, right? And so it frees you up to be a better priest. It frees you up to be a better pastor. Now, that's my comment. My question is, because you've changed parishes, have you found that you've had to start to apply all this stuff once again?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Way back to the beginning. I joke that I'm doing divine renovation for the first time. I'm giving it a try. So far, so good, because, what we learned, what became my first book was really a theological reflection on all of my efforts from my very first parish. It wasn't just about St. Benedict Parish. And even at St. Benedict Parish, we got, in most of the parishes I've been in, I'd say we got through what I would call phase one of parish renewal. We don't have time to get into this, but phase one is really about getting momentum and culture transformation. It can take 2 to 4 years. And then phase two is when you got to maintain your vision and your culture and begin to put in your major systems for forming and equipping disciples, small groups, sacramental prep, and how that all blends together, etc. That can take 4 to 5 years to do. And so one thing is that parish renewal takes time. It takes a long, long, long time. And so here I am now, way back at the very, very, very beginning of this process. And I know it's going to take time. And it's and one of the things that we struggle with in many dioceses is the frequency with which pastors are moved. And so you can never really you're not there long enough to bring about the substantial change that's needed to happen. And we just shoot ourselves in the foot, because we teach any priest with passion in their hearts and a desire to do anything, eventually don't even bother, because whatever you did accomplish through God's grace, the guy who comes in behind you is probably going to let it fall apart or will dismantle it. So the passion begins to die in the heart of a priest. The other thing we teach is that we teach lay people, don't take anyone seriously with any kind of vision they might proclaim, because he'll be gone soon enough and things will just go back to the way they've always been. So the way we've been doing it has not helped us here. But yeah, I'm back at the very beginning, and it's I'm kind of being intentional about employing these principles, what I've been able to learn in my own experience previously as a pastor and by working with other priests. And it's been quite amazing, because we always say, so often priests who try to go on this journey, they try to do too much. They don't realize how long this actually takes. And year one, what have I primarily been doing in year one, other than a few emergency things I had to deal with, and with regard to COVID and such and the amalgamation, is principally vision casting and building a team. And starting implementing your evangelistic tools. So for us, we really recommend Alpha. It's not, you could use other tools, but it's casting vision and building a team. That's really your foundational things. Vision is about, where are we going? What kind of parish is God calling us to be? Most people don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. Many church-going Catholics are not evangelized, have never been experienced being filled with the Holy Spirit. Most of our parishes are not filled with missionary disciples, and they can't even relate to that concept. They can't even imagine it. So at some point, you've also got to let some people will get it. Other people, it's not going to be until they taste and see that they get it. But it takes time. So year one is vision casting and building a team, getting your key staffing in place, getting people who really support your vision, getting a leadership team that supports the vision, building a pastoral council. That's really what I've been doing in the first year.
So I want to ask you something else, a little bit different, kind of a different direction here. But by way of telling you that I also, as you mentioned, you go talk to priests. I've done probably a dozen priest convocations the last couple of years. So I don't talk as many times as you do, but one of the things I ask the priests I talk to is, tell me a time when you felt most alive. And inevitably, it's the story of the person who's hadn't been to confession in 30 years. It's when somebody comes up to them after Mass in tears and says, I experienced an indwelling of the Holy Spirit. It's conversion. It's conversion that makes a priest come alive. And what I also echo to them is the same goes for your people. When your people see fruit, your people come alive. But to get a pastor to see that their job is to enable their people to go out into the world and be fruitful and change the world is really what they're, in a sense, their mission is to be the impetus for the church's, the parish's mission. Now, here's where my direction I want to go is, we've seen a lot of fruitfulness in outside of the parish context, right? We see apostolates and movements and orders and others that are very fruitful. And it's almost as if those things are starting to teach the parish, we can do this because the laity can do this. So having examples helps us, but ultimately renewal is going to go through the parish. That's my contention. Would you agree with that, Father?